Good evening, everyone. Wow. Even my kids don't say anything back to me when I say good evening. So my name's Marty Atkins, and I'm the Adult Programming Coordinator for the library, and I really want to welcome you here tonight for our Northwords and Music show, Gratitude Show. And I'm just going to make you aware of a few things that are upcoming still in November. This coming Wednesday, if you're not doing anything, whatever, what else do you have to plan for? Come at noon here in the community room, and we're showing the movie Air, which came out last year. It stars Matt Damon, directed by Ben Affleck. It's a really, really great film, so I really encourage you to come to that. It's an hour and a half. I make popcorn. You sit here, you eat, you see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I mean, what more could you want? And then next Tuesday, we have our Blues Day Tuesday, our monthly concert, and this month's concert is going to be by Phil Lynch. And if you've never seen Phil perform, he is fantastic. Really, really fantastic. And we have all kinds of stuff coming up in December, but since you guys are here for music, I'll highlight the concerts next month. How's that? On Wednesday, December 6th, we have a jazz group, Face Chord, who is going to be doing a cool Yule concert. So that's going to be at 7 p.m. here in the community room on December 6th. And then our very own Linda Smith is going, her band, Big Lake Band, is going to be here on December 13th at 7 p.m. to do a Christmas concert. Lots of great stuff coming up in December. Those flyers are back there. Thank you for coming to Northwords and Music. I wish you all happy Thanksgiving, and I'm going to turn things over to our host.
Thank you. Well, it's time again for Northwords and Music, featuring two-time UP Poet Laureate Marty Atkins, and also this year's Marquette Arts Writer of the Year. Our favorite actress, Jackie Love, who couldn't join us tonight. She had a little family emergency tonight, so we're going to need some fill-ins tonight. The maestra herself, fiddle player extraordinaire, NMU's own Barb Rainier. Our guest star for tonight, singer-songwriter Linda Smith. Woo. And me, the old storyteller, B.G. Bradley. This version of the Northwords and Music is brought to you by La Dolce Video, full-service advertising agency located in Marquette, Michigan, providing professional graphic design, website design, video production, and marketing solutions. Stop in today and see how we can help grow your business. La Dolce Pro. Benegama Press, that's Benegamah, one-stop book shopping and free entertainment, courtesy of B.G. Bradley and his beneficent overlord and silent partner, bgbbooksup.com. Bigfoot and much more, a fully owned subsidiary of the Atkins Corporation. The Our Favorite Actress, Jackie Love Foundation, Ben and Jen O'Brien, founders and combatants. Fiddlers Are Us, a division of the Rainier Consortium. And by marriage, a social contract. Let me try that again. And by marriage, a social contract designed to keep you from forgetting things. Uber Yoga, proving you can eat a pasty, fish for walleye, and still be enlightened. And by Friends of Peter White Public Library and the Carol Paul Memorial Trust. And stop and see us at the end of the show. Pick up one of our books or CDs and support your local arts community. Now, Marty and I are going to start you off tonight with a poem that we wrote for just this occasion.
Bare Tamarack.
I'm grateful for the bare tamarack branches along the frozen bristled bog.
And for these feet that bear me to them under a sky salted with stars.
Meteors brush the dark, leaving no trace but memory.
Like a mosquito bite that itches for days and days.
Did I see that? Yes, I saw it, but did I really? Over.
Until I'm not sure where I end and joy begins.
I'm grateful, joyful even for this doubt out here where wings whistle through the icy northwest gusts.
Where there's doubt, there's also possibility. The birth of beauty under milky skies.
Who tries for life, tries for wild.
Ask the newborn bear cub suckling the hibernating hulk of mother.
Hear the gray wolf howl in the half dark, then convince your heart to be still.
And listen. Everything has a song, even the cattails and moonshot mud.
And the hover of blue-gray clouds, promising the amber-red deliverance of souls on every ice-brittle day. And now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for Yooper Yoga. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself by taking one of them cleansing breaths. All right, you guys. It's time for Yooper Yoga. Take one more of them cleansing breaths now. That's perfect. Now, feel the forest. Feel the forest. Feel your old heart a-beating. In now there. Out now there. Out right again. Take the starting pose now. Frozen pasty. In now there. Out. In again. Out. The earth is near you. The northern lights is shining. In there. Out now. Swat the mosquitoes. In. Out. Okay, on now to dodge the tourists. In. Out. Okay, now start the chainsaw. In. Out. Now move on to drag out the buck. Drag out the buck. In. Out. Okay, now. Scoop the driveway. Scoop the driveway. In. Out. Okay, take one of them cleansing breaths. Now, walk through the blizzard. Walk through the blizzard. In. Out. Uh-oh, I'm out of beer. In. Out. Oh, say, who ate my Cheetos? In. Out. Now, take the position, fart in the sauna. In. Out. Okay, now, smelting the yellow dog. Smelting the yellow dog. Now, close right in there. Full on roadkill. And once more, back to frozen pasty. Good. You made great progress today. All is well. All is well. See you next time. Now, I am just back a couple of days ago from spending most of September and most of October and a little bit of November out in the woods in a fairly remote place, to which that isn't enough for me. I get in a little John boat and paddle out even further and spend lots of time out in hunting blinds and so forth. And this is a poem that I wrote about being in those solitary places, and it's called Anthem. From deserted lands, this song arises. One voice only, the tune, a reaching into ether, a pulling down of form. For a solitary soul, only absence is present. Here's an anthem to those lands where you're hard-pressed to find a person if you were seeking such. We sing to the tamarack trees, to the buffleheads billowing on their way through from the more northern boreal, down in, weaving, bobbing, over the only swamp one certain person can know in this life, to the wolves who hear us and never stay near because we're foreign and dangerous, to the water that stills and churns, day to day, over and over, circulating in a glacial bowl for 100,000 years and many more. We sing to the unpeopled past, singular songs to the uncertain futures, songs to destinies we can't imagine, songs devoid of hope and love and hate and joy and envy and lust and trust and fear and anger, all constructs those. Songs to stillness and storm, songs to frozen white plains and great waves, songs to bitter-rooted stems and salamanders, songs to songbirds who hardly notice and never stop their instinctive reaction to lives we can't fathom, songs of those lonely kinds, sung to voids of plenty and echo. No country, no country, no country, no country, my solitary friend. That was always illusion, always, 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 always. Meet me if we must meet somewhere on this two-track. We may share some food and a story. Maybe that will sustain us. Then we'll sing this song for a long day and the long night that follows. And this next poem, Barb has graciously agreed to help me with a little bit. It's a poem about working with actors and being an actor and being in a show and what it's like and what folks like that are like. And it is called The Nature of. Oh, actors.
When they stand on their heads in prep to perform,
or are just a little too eager, too terrified to do that soulful soliloquy, that startling scene.
when they wax philosophic about characters they once played or are playing.
When they give voice to their slightly off-kilter beliefs.
When they cry about the meaning of their craft, the only thing that's ever given their life much meaning.
When they join with the other actors in the singing of some old song.
When they simmer in rage about imagined slights.
When they walk off the set swearing never to return and never do until the next rehearsal.
When they peek through the curtain just before showtime to check the numbers in the house.
When they swallow pride and belief and follow the direction of the director, even when they're sure it's the wrong direction.
When they lean into a part a bit too far, and then, when the run is over, have a hard time emerging or even remembering who they used to be.
Then, when they live lost between parts, lost between lives, souls to inhabit.
And when their latest part arrives and they are charmingly ecstatic for days.
They are just being actors. And this is a poem I wrote a while back when I was in a certain kind of mood, as you can get a feel for, I think. It's called 15 Gestures Towards Stone. 1. I'm awake with disappearing now, just being gone. I have no more need to dig in, to harden my positions. Thanks for the offer. 2. I've thought about headstones, and now I'm rejecting them. It's okay if some folks remember me a while, but I hope not too many, and not for too long. They've got my books to read if they want. Nothing literally carved in stone is necessary. And please, no genealogy and theories about who I was. Just forget me, so I can too. So I can start again or not, as the case may be. I'm happy to be just a little bit of wind between the stars, or even less than that. 3. I used to like good round stones in my pocket. I would reach in there and feel their smooth surfaces, but then they seemed to become weights, and I put those stones away somewhere, in some drawer perhaps. Or maybe I dropped them on the ground. I hope I dropped them on the ground. I hope nobody else ever picks them up again. They've been bothered enough. 4. I was never good at skipping stones. My brother could get 15 or 16 skips with just the flick of a wrist. Mine just splashed, marking my momentary failure until the next one smashed water and it started again. That made my brother laugh. That made me cry. I was in my 30s, I think, before I ever got the knack. And what good is that knack in your 30s, I ask you? I came to everything late. I came true, though. And I didn't give up. 5. There's a thing now about piling flat stones on beaches. I don't know what it means. I could Google it, but that's just more noise, less silence. I'd rather let those little towers stand and fall, remain a mystery a while, and then just be stones scattered on the sand, becoming more scattered and distant from each other all the time. I think that would be best. 6. Along one stony beach at the lake, I found a flat stone with the perfect imprint of a trilobite, and it was. Those impressions always seemed to come from a fantasy land, but this land was real, a world of trilobites. What were the sounds? Or was there only wind and water and scuttling movement? Noah's world, 1,000 generations before Noah. 7. The hard stone sound, rock sound, you know that sound. Rock dropped on rock, stone on stone. Different for every variety. A dry drum beat, a near metallic clank, a gristle growl, a loud, flat pancake smack. 8. If stones could talk, all their tales would be long, low moans. Maybe they can. 9. I have to grow fond of endings because endings are coming in droves. I'll scatter little stones along the path to remind me that what starts must end. You can walk over stone, but stone keeps reminding you of your mortality underfoot, a monotone song that flattens all the senses and the pretenses, waiting, just waiting. 10. An older brother of mine once threw stones at me. An older brother of a friend of mine once threw stones at me just to make me jump. I was a little boy and I couldn't believe he was doing it. But I carried out my own cruelties later. I've been on both sides. Pick up a stone. See what you do. 11. They talk about stone pillows. The bellows of the sky sweep over and you rest forever. 12. I'll trade you all my stones for yours. That's how ready I am for change. 13. Hear that? That's a pocket full of stones, little rocks dropped from a height. They don't spiral, they fall straight. How's that? They rest waiting for you to contemplate their downward angle that is no angle. 14. Breathe in this stone day. Try to find a way to make it go away. You have to go through the motion. What you'll come to know is inevitable. 15. Is there some opening in the stone I don't know? Is there a way to go that I've not found? It will take hands. It will take hands. It will take hands of some great someone. Roll it back, light. Roll it back. Thank you. Thank you. And next up now, Linda has volunteered to step in, and we're going to read a poem called Playing It Out.
Scene 1. The old guy rises fully awake. The young dog is waiting in the upstairs hall. Down the stairs. He switches the coffee maker on in the kitchen. Quickly to the back door now. Out into the snow go the old dog who was waiting by the wood stove and the young dog who's always followed all the daily procedures in precise order. The old guy puts the dog food in dishes and sets them out just so. Lets the dogs back in and they eat. He goes back upstairs to the waiting blank papers. A poem to write. A poem to write.
Scene 2. Long open plain, former forest, now cut low beneath the railroad grade. Stone hills, slowly turning white with the new snow. Scattered fir trees still stand. The old guy and the dogs wander along, turn back at a certain point, parallel the train tracks a while. He is wrapped in a Mad Bomber hat, 2 overcoats, big mittens, and boots. He carries an old ski pole so he doesn't fall on the ice slicks. There are deer legs hidden in the brush that the dogs always find. The old guy is thinking about something long and melodious. If you stopped him in the middle, he couldn't tell you what it was. The dogs wander far. He calls them back. They find a trail under the power line and walk slowly along towards home.
Scene 3. Old guy in an armchair with a book on his lap, jazz music playing, sounds of his wife working in the kitchen. Wonderful smells coming from there. He's reading, but looks up now and then and says something to the sound of the invisible wife. The clatter in the kitchen stops. He can't hear a response because he's going deaf. But he's smiling anyway, just to hear her voice.
Scene 4. The old guy is sleeping in his chair. The only sunlight of the day is coming in through the window. His wife passes the chair on her way upstairs to see about some lost item. She stops, adjusts the blanket over him, goes on. The dogs are asleep, too, near his feet. The jazz is still playing. Now we're going to call Mary and Linda. Mary?
Wow.
Sorry.
I have a sister named Mary, but
Okay.
she's in Washington.
Okay. I don't think Mary's going to be here tonight, so we'll have to settle for Marty and Linda. And we're going to call him back to the stage for some more music and poetry, and I'm going to consider for a long time while I'm
I haven't
calling
submitted the paperwork
Marty,
for your
Mary.
check
Anyway,
yet.
okay.
So, and I want to thank BG because he was going to have me do this set right after I did Yooper Yoga, and I said, no, I got to recover from that.
It was very physical. All
So
that
yes,
acting.
it was very physical, and anyway, but I want to introduce Linda Smith, who I've known for, gosh, has it been 20 years, something
Been
like
a
that?
long time, Marty, a very long time.
Doesn't she sound thrilled? Anyway, she's been a wonderful friend and collaborator for all that time, and she's going to share a song with you.
So Marty and I, we've had all kinds of adventures, haven't we? And one of our adventures we've had together is we've had the opportunity to do some contemporary worship music together. And when Marty said, "Come and sing tonight," I said, "What's the theme?" And he said, "Gratitude." And I thought, well, there's a big old boat. Yeah. So the songs that I'm going to do tonight I tried to pick some really different types of songs. And this one is called Gratitude, and it's by Brandon Lake. I've got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs as I often do, but every song must end, and you never do. So I'll throw up my hands, praise you again and again. All that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king. All that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. I've got one response. I've got just one move. With my arms stretched wide, I will worship you. Though I throw up my hands, praise you again and again. All that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. I know it's not much, nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, hallelujah. So come on, my soul, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song. You've got the lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. So come on, my soul, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song. 'Cause you've got the lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. So I'll throw up my hands, praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, hallelujah.
So I'm thinking I should have gone after Yooper Yoga now instead of following that. Oh my gosh. I'm going to read a few poems here, and I tried to pick poems that are suitable for the season. And even though my son isn't here, I picked one that I wrote for him, and it's called Harvest Time. He begged me for just 10 more minutes before he had to shower. wash off the math and lunchroom and homework of the day. He stands in the backyard by the wood pile, holds a stick the size of his arm, swinging it through the dusk. Wild chops that guillotine the swarm of mosquitoes in front of his face. Then he turns, swings in the other direction toward the neighbor's house. The arc bisects the navel sun. Back and forth, he threshes the air, the way I saw a Russian peasant boy in an old newsreel slash down wheat with a scythe. All the time my son does this, his mouth moves. He's talking, or shouting, or singing. I can't hear him through the kitchen window. But he's smiling a smile that is all him. A smile he saves just for himself. I've never seen it before. It's not meant for my eyes or anyone's eyes. I turn away from the glass. Let him be his own, harvesting these last golden bushels of daylight. So, I just learned that my son's favorite dessert on Thanksgiving is pecan pie. I never knew that. It was also my mother's favorite dessert as well. So I wrote this poem quite a few years ago, and appropriately enough, it's titled Pecan Pie. And if you follow the instructions in this, you will be able to make a pecan pie, I promise you. So here it is, pecan pie. Mix eggs, sugar, and Caro, melted butter, vanilla from Mexico in a bowl until it runs yellow as corn silk. Add pecans, 1 1/4 cups. Fold them into the gold syrup the way a farmer folds manure into a field of hay. Or my son folds a Tootsie Roll under his tongue, plants it there, lets it feed the furrows of his young body. Pour this filling into a shell, edges fluted by my wife's hands, crimped between thumb and forefinger to peaks and troughs of dough. Bake at 350 degrees, 45 minutes to an hour. You'll know when it's done. The house will smell brown and warm and sweet. Dip a butter knife blade into the center of the pie. If it comes out hot and clean, take the pie out of the oven. Put it on the front porch to cool. You can leave it there overnight. It'll be waiting in the morning. Cover it with a hand towel. Carry it to your parents' house, where your mother asks you, "Is it cold outside?" over and over as you cut the pie. Yes, you tell her, and yes, when she asks again. It is cold this Thanksgiving. And yes, pecan pie is her favorite. Give her a large slice with extra Cool Whip and a hot cup of coffee. Now, I told myself I wasn't going to do a Bigfoot poem tonight. But this one is called Bigfoot Gives Thanks. So Bigfoot gives thanks after Gerard Manley Hopkins. He doesn't chase down a turkey, wring its pink neck like a wet dish rag, gut it with his thumb, cook it in sun and fly and maggot for days, serve it with sides of chewed yam, moose marrow, fermented pumpkin guts green with thyme, smelling strong as a bear den at winter's end. He doesn't smooth his hair with mud, brush his teeth with fresh milkweed, cram himself into a church pew beside blue-haired widows who look at his gorilla arms and long to feel their dead husband's dark embraces in bed at night again. doesn't stand when the organ starts breathing music, raise the siren of his voice to now thank we all our God, until the stained glass rattles and fractures, letting seams of pure white stitch all gathered with the shook foil of the world. No, his way is simpler, a morning glory leaning toward day, unfolding, shaking off the teary dew of darkness. Stand outside at dawn or dusk. The bent world is charged with his hairy gratitude in the long-legged shadows of first and last light as they stretch and stretch and stretch down the street, across railroad trestle, through hayfields, cornfields, into pines and poplar, further and further and further, mountain, swamp and lake, canyon and cave, ocean, glacier, savanna, desert, until, at last, they have touched it all the grandeur of deep down things. Thank you. And now I believe we have a word from one of our sponsors.
Yes, we do have a word from one of our sponsors, but this is where we're going to need some help. I'm going to need, I really hate to do this, but we're missing an actor tonight, and we need a volunteer from the audience. We'll have, oh my goodness. Oh, ma'am, yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We have a script right up
That
here for
is
you.
a brave
Yes,
woman.
no kidding.
Yes, especially after she's watched the first half of the show.
Yes. And now a word from our sponsor. Marriage, a social contract designed to keep you from forgetting things. For centuries, clergy, politicians, anthropologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and other observers of the human condition have been monitoring the institution of marriage to figure out its whys and wherefores. Is it a simple survival expedient designed to ensure the perpetuation of the species through procreation and nurturing of families? Is it a psychological imperative to keep us from going through life in a constant state of isolation? Is it a holy union designed to further the greater emotional and spiritual good of humankind? While all of the above may be true, marriage also has one other benefit. It is a social contract designed to keep you from forgetting things. Watch this actual demonstration.
Okay, checklist.
Right.
Keys.
Check.
Wallet.
Check.
Phone.
Check.
Glasses.
There it is. I knew I forgot something.
They're on your head.
Or,
We were on this island.
which one?
Starts with an A.
Aruba.
Yeah, Aruba. And we saw a concert by that guy, you know, the one who sings that song about drinking and
Jimmy Buffett.
oh yeah. And we ran into
Your cousin Jesse.
oh yeah. And I hadn't seen him in years. In fact, he'd never even met my wife here.
Margaret.
Oh,
Yes, indeed. There's nothing like marriage to help you keep track of things as the years go on, and to bring you that comforting sense of humility from someone who knows you quite a bit better than you know yourself. Marriage, recommended by social scientists and memory experts everywhere, not recommended for crybabies, egomaniacs, or those intent on living in denial. Some side effects, including children, may occur.
thank you. Let's give a hand for our volunteer, who also happens to be my wife. Yes.
Okay. And now we're going to move from the ridiculous to, well,
Hopefully
maybe not the sublime.
Maybe the sublime.
Maybe possibly the sublime. I don't know. Okay. And this is a poem called Writer to Writer.
scribbling toward ends we know we're not capable of reaching. Our efforts are seabird cries towards the unfathomable horizons where wildfires whisper roar.
The oar in the ground, the spiraling stars before dawn, your lover's hands reaching for you.
What do you know? What can be known? What tales do you want to tell us?
Maybe you'll tell one about an old man gibbering while holding his grown grandson's hand, wishing away the terrors of yet another latter day.
Or one about a little girl who sees a bear striding through her back garden on his way to the pine forest on the ridge.
And along the way there are questions.
Have you seen God's terrible face?
Have you seen angels stop their infinitely more important work and condescend to sing just to you? That song that sounds like smoke, ice, and stream water. That song that is not a dream but your earliest memory.
This poem is unfinished. Every poem, yours or mine or Shakespeare's, is unfinished. Let me look at your face a while. Let me hold your eyes in memory long enough to know you. Yes, you are a fellow night singer. Yes, you are an early day chanter, murmurer, marker of time, place, meaning, voice, scent. Yes, you are the odd woman man out in the universal grasp of kindness and respite. I know you, and I love both your worries and your trepidations that show so true around the line of that determined mouth of yours.
Friend, under the aging skin of the wavering heart, leaping mind, celestial spirit, don't be afraid to sing your own lovely troubled song. Right on.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So it's my turn again, I think, Linda and I. So I'm a plumber's son. All my life I've been a plumber's son. When I was at my high school graduation, was named salutatorian, someone walked up to me and said, "Aren't you the plumber's son?" So, you know, my dad grew up on a farm. And while he was out there, like, planting in the fields and milking cows and feeding chickens and skating through manure, you know, he always told himself, I am not going to be a farmer. I am not going to be a farmer. And he made good on that. He moved to Detroit, graduated from high school, and after high school, he became a plumber's apprentice. And then he became a full licensed master plumber. And along the way, he also got married, started having children, and he started a business, Ackett's Plumbing. Then, as my 3 older brothers got old enough and they became plumbers, it changed into Ackett's and Sons Plumbing. And then when my older sister got old enough, she apprenticed, got her license, master plumber license, and it became Ackett's and Family Plumbing. Yeah. It was, and when I was in high school, my dad would take me, force me, to go on service calls with him in the summertime. It was my least favorite thing to do. I did not want to do it. And I kept on telling myself every job that I went on, every leaky faucet that we fixed, I would say, I'm not going to be a plumber. I'm not going to be a plumber. And this was driven into my head, especially one time when my dad took me on a sewer call. And I was wearing black Reeboks, brand new. I'd saved up. Now, for those of you that don't remember the 1980s, black Reeboks were it. I mean, they were it. And they were $100, right? And I was so proud of them. Well, I wore them to work that day. And my dad, as he was kneeling down by the clean-out for the sewer, started unscrewing it, you know? And I'm standing right next to him. And he looks up at me and he says, you might want to take a step back. and he took off the cleanout plug, and all this raw sewage, about 20 feet of it, just poured over my new black Reeboks. And I said, I am not going to be a plumber. And I made good on that. I went to college, studied English, and became a poet. But even after that, when I would go to a poetry reading, and I would do, I think I killed it, great poems, and everybody seemed to really like it. Someone would eventually come up to me after the reading and look at me and go, aren't you the plumber's son? Yeah, I couldn't get away from it. Well, I lost my father about 4 years ago, but one of the last poetry, and my dad always came to my poetry readings. He'd sit in the front row and look at me, and I'm not sure, I'm not sure if he appreciated it, if he understood it or not. But he would sit there, and so the last time that he came to a poetry reading, it was right before Christmas. I gave a poetry reading at Carnegie Library in Ishpeming, and he was sitting in the front row. And afterward, as I was mingling with people and talking with them, someone walked up to my father and said, hi, how are you? Who are you? And he looked up at that person and said, I'm the poet's father. So when he passed, I wrote a poem for him, and I'd like to read it for you tonight. Hopefully get through it. It's called The Quiet Man. Last night, I dreamed my dad and John Wayne were sitting around a campfire, eating peaches out of a can. Stars thick as cattle herds milled above them, and the prairie grass hummed some sweet old song like Red River Valley or Shenandoah. I'm not sure if it was heaven, but my father was young and perfect, the hook of his back as straight as a railroad spike. Duke was young, too, the retired prizefighter who chased Maureen O'Hara through the green Galway countryside. There weren't any Nazis crawling along the ground in ambush, no Richard Boone-faced kidnappers, skin leathery as buffalo jerky, trying to steal their sleeping horses. I'm not sure if you can smell in dreams, but I remember smelling manure and smoke and something else, maybe the coming of rain. My dad and Duke didn't talk, just forked golden crescents into their mouths, looking as if they were eating solar eclipse after solar eclipse. Their forks made hollow, cowbell noises in the dark. When they were done, they tipped the cans to their lips, drank the syrup inside until it ran down their chins. I kept waiting for something more to happen, a runaway stagecoach to crash through, or a baby elephant nosing for hay. Instead, my dad took a deck of cards from his pocket, started dealing. They played gin rummy, hand after hand. My dad let John Wayne win because, well, he was John Wayne. And because that's what my dad did every morning with my mother for years and years. He did it because it was a habit of love. Maybe that's the name of this movie, Habit of Love. It starts out simply enough. 2 cards, dealt face up, the king and queen of hearts.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see 'em bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I blessed day in the dark, sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow are so pretty in the sky, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll know much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Ooh, yeah.
Linda Smith. Thank you, Linda. We're gonna welcome Barb back up here, and she's going to do a couple numbers for you that are sure to get your toes tapping. So, yeah, she's looking at me like, really? That wasn't a requirement. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay.
The name of these two tunes is, I don't want this to fall out or anything on my head. Joe Cassidy's, and this is by a guy named Tommy Peebles. And the next one is Marquis of Huntley, and I'm going to put them together. They sound similar, but I'm going to put them together, and they're not too fast, but they might, I don't know, they might dance. You might get up and start dancing.
Marty and I have been doing these shows for a couple of years now, and I was saying to Barb and to Linda earlier before the show, every time I work with talented musicians like these two, it just amazes me, and I think to myself, I know less and less about music all the time, and I'm enjoying it more and more just by being around them. Let's give them another round of applause. Well, I want to talk now about homecoming. It's Thanksgiving after all, and lots of folks are coming home, but I'm talking more specifically, having been a high school teacher for 35 years and having been a high school student and a football player before that, about actual homecomings. I'm going to start with the least important part in my small town, where this tended to be what people tried to forget most of the time, because we very rarely won a homecoming game. My oldest brother's senior year, and my oldest brother was a really good football player, big, strong guy that a coach said, you ought to take that number 79 and put him in a cage, they said about him after a game one time. And he was a really good football player on a really bad team. In 1966, Newberry, my hometown, had the opportunity, the great opportunity, and the schedulers were so smart, of playing Marquette on homecoming. Well, in 1966, Newberry had not beaten Marquette since 1951. Why they were scheduled for homecoming, I do not know. But anyway, so the Newberry squad battled and battled against, the metropolis of Marquette for 4 quarters, and unbelievably, late in the game was still tied 7-7. There was an actual hope that the homecoming game might end with a win, and even with a win over Marquette. But then, in the late going, the bigger, stronger, more multitudinous team was way too strong for the hometown boys, and the score ended 14-7. And so onward it went. Newberry finished the year 1-7, 1-8, I guess. And then the next year was more of the same. And a few years later, in the fall of 1970, my next oldest brother, who was a wonderful wideout, the only wideout that Newberry ever had, because they were just now coming to the idea of having a wide receiver. He was an all-state wide receiver and with incredible hands. And he was, again, one of the best players on a team that was just not very good. And homecoming came around one more time, and on the schedule was Marquette. Well, the game went in a way that no one could believe. Newberry, closing down the fourth quarter, had an 8-7 lead. And they had just gotten that lead. They'd been down 7-0 almost the whole game, and they scored with seconds left on the clock and made the 2-point conversion to go ahead 8-7. All they had to do, all the team had to do, was kick the ball off and tackle the receiver of the ball down at the other end. That's all they had to do. The kickoff came. The Newberry squad rushed down the field, and Chuck Labron grabbed a hold of the returner and threw him to the ground. The game was over. Newberry was celebrating all over the field, hugs in the stands. And then something very strange happened. Everyone looked up at the field and suddenly saw a kid in red and white running down the sidelines with the ball, just before the returner hit the ground, he had turned and wildly lateraled the ball back over his shoulder. And Chuck Laburn, who had made the tackle, did not see this. And one of his teammates caught the ball going past, went all the way for the score. And Newberry lost 13-8. You can look that one up. So, when my senior year came, my hopes were not high. And we came to the homecoming game, and we were a somewhat better team than the two teams my brothers had been on. We were near 500. But the scheduler had given us a break. We weren't playing Marquette. We were playing Gwynn. Now, Gwynn was better than us. No question about it. They had 4 or 5 All-Staters on the team, and except for a few players, that one whose name you might recognize, a guy by the name of Rob Rubik, who went on to play for the Detroit Lions, amazingly. Except for a few guys on the team, most of us were fair to middling at best. And my friend, whose nickname was Butterball, who was the guard, and I, the tackle, were assigned to take on the all-state defensive tackle for Gwynn. Again, both of us were fair to middling. The game began, and the kid was looking at us like we were fresh meat. And for the first couple of plays, he had his way. But then Butter and I got mad. And we finally decided, okay, this is our senior year. For once, we're not going to be mediocre. And we went after him with everything we had. And a strange thing started to happen. He started to go down. I'd hit him, and then Butter'd hit him, and he'd hit the ground. And we'd look at each other and like, what just happened? And the game went on. And there was more of that happening all over the field. And we were winning. We weren't just winning. We were winning 19-0 in a snowstorm. We were in the huddle holding each other's hands. We were the best team in the world for one night. We won that homecoming game. 19-0. But that is the least important part of this story. The night before homecomings, there was a strange tradition in my hometown that they called Hell Night. On that night, the bonfire, which when I was a little boy I heard as bombfire, which made me a little apprehensive, went on. And then this thing that they called the snake dance went down the main street of town. And I just remember bits and pieces now. The snake dance I remember because I was standing on the porch with my sister, and we were watching. And my sister was maybe 13 or 14, and my mom was not allowing her to be part of this terrible snake dance that was going down the street. And here were high school kids with their hands joined, going back and forth down the street, and laughing and screaming and yelling things, all in the colors of the high school. And I looked at my sister, and I said, "What's that?" And she said, "The snake dance." Mm-hmm. It was years and years later, when I was teaching Shakespeare to high school kids, that I was trying to choreograph a dance for a version of one of Shakespeare's plays. And I talked to the music teacher, Tony Biacco, and I said, what can we do here? And he said, "We should do a serpentine dance." And I said, "A what?" He said, "A serpentine dance." They did it back in the Middle Ages. And suddenly, I flashed back to the main street of Newberry and realized that in my little town, we had been carrying on a tradition that went back to the Beltane fires of the Middle Ages. as part of our homecoming. Also on Hell Night, and I've seen a movie recently called The Purge. That's kind of what it was like. You were kind of, if you were in high school, free to do whatever. You could go and get lard from your mother's kitchen, and spread it in somebody's hair, grab eggs and throw them at each other, and this kind of became a tradition, and nobody in Newberry really looked at it as anything particularly bizarre. And my brother Denny told me all about it. Oh, yeah, it's great. You can go out and just go crazy and yell and scream and throw stuff at people and everything else. It's just absolutely terrific. And a new kid came to town, Mike Herbst, and Denny was running down the street with a handful of lard, and he swiped it all over Mike's head and pushed him down and ran away laughing. And Mike went home crying and told his dad, and his dad called my dad, and my dad said to Mr. Herbst over the phone, well, don't you know about Hell Night? And one day, one of those homecomings, somewhere in there, I was out in the street with my best friend, Jeff Hansen. And with us were my brother Dennis, who would later go on to be that great wide receiver, and Jeff's brother Andy. And we were out there in the street, and they were preparing for Hell Night. Jeff and I were still too young. And Denny said to me, and Andy said to Jeff, why don't you guys go home and get some eggs out of the refrigerator? Now, we were too dumb to question why they were asking us to do it, and they weren't doing it themselves. What are we getting eggs for? I asked my brother. He said, well, to throw at cars. I went, okay. I walked back to the house, ran back to the house. I was really excited. I was going to be part of Hell Night. I went into the kitchen, reached into the refrigerator, looking for eggs, found some, grabbed a couple of handfuls in my little hands, and was just about to go out the door when my mom walked into the kitchen. And she looked at me, and she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting some eggs to throw at cars. I had an early bedtime that night. Thank you. And now we're going to close out tonight with a song that you probably know, and we hope that some of you will sing along with us.
And my wife is coming to join us.
The second's 3. The first is shoveling, the second's relatives. It's reserved for all our summer company.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
So after this show, come up and see us and buy some books and some CDs too. We want to make a whole lot of money and retire to some island when we're through.
Yes! You are my sunshine.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.